So this is Nick Shirley sitting in front of a Judiciary Committee. And what you're about to hear is them accidentally admitting that the fraud pipeline exists, while at the same time being curious about or seeming unsure whether or not it's isolated. So let's watch.
Mr. Shirley, you're recognized for your opening statement.
Awesome. I'm here today to speak on behalf of all hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens here inside of the United States. I've helped bring to light widespread fraud that's happening inside our nation, and we the people have had enough of our hard-earned money going towards fraudsters as if it's no big deal. As I speak here, I want to ask everyone a question. How much do we trust when we pay our taxes it's going to benefit our nation?
Zero. I have zero trust in this. We've been getting taxed out the fucking ass for a long time. Just think, our forefathers fought over a 2% tax, and now we get taxed on top of tax, on top of tax, on top of tax. It's basically like roughly 30%-ish tax today. It's just ridiculous. And we see where it goes. It goes towards these communities, or they claim it's, oh, we're helping people, and it's always some moral framing like this, when in reality it's lining certain individuals' pockets, like politicians or even people they want to buy votes for, have the Democrats vote for. So that's really what it is. Zero trust.
People erupted during the Boston
The system
Tea
is
Party
corrupt.
over just a few percentages as they believe they are being taxed without representation. Nowadays, we have the representation, but do we trust our representatives?
No.
My name is Nick Shirley, and I made a 41-minute video that I posted on platforms like X and YouTube. My video received over 100 million views, and it created instant change within our government. As the federal government launched investigations and departments such as Health and Human Services froze over $185 million in child care funding until businesses can prove they are legitimate businesses.
Exactly. And that's what needed to happen. See, these people, they would get, have a couple, like a home daycare. I saw something else on this. They had a home daycare and, claim they would have certain amounts of kids there, like 10 kids, maybe 8 to 10, whatever. And then the government subsidizes them, gives them money to cover the costs of all this stuff, and then they can write it off on their taxes and whatnot. And it comes out to be crazy amounts of money. So people see this, and they're like, well, I have a couple kids. My cousin has a couple kids. I'll just tell my cousin to send their kids over here. I'll claim I have 10 kids here. I'll get this much money. And then in reality, this much money equates to this many kids. We, in reality, have this many kids, but then we are capitalizing on the difference of the amounts of money and pocketing the rest for ourselves. So I'm glad he brought this up.
I actually became aware of the fraud that was happening in Minnesota in June of 2025 as I was there for a separate video, and Minnesotans started reaching out to me, asking me if I was making a video on the fraud. I said, well, what fraud? And this lady, she was a real estate agent, and she says, well, I'm having a hard time selling my properties because people are curious about these assisted livings that are popping up next door to some of the houses that we're buying, or the home health care clinics that are popping up, and we don't know who's next to these houses that we're trying to sell. And I said, well, I'm not going to come and make a video if I don't have any proof. So therefore, I left Minnesota, and I continued to look for fraud in the best way I could. And as I was getting my own information, a man by the name of David reached out to me, and he said, hey, I have been investigating this fraud for years now. I have been driving by these child care centers. I have never seen a single child, and I have received the information from the state of Minnesota as to how much money these places are receiving.
And that's the old guy in his video that he did the videos with, who's been investigating it much longer than him. Nick kind of just brought it to light because he has a large viewer base. And a lot of people watch his videos. Obviously, I mean, his videos on this subject blew up, got hundreds of millions of views. But yeah, the other guy, David, he researched all this in depth, drove around the areas multiple times, was just inspecting them throughout the weeks and saw no cars there, no kids ever going there. So that, and what does that tell you? They're capped for like 80 kids there and they have 0. They get funded for 80 kids when they have 0 there, or like maybe 4. And the amount of money they need is down here and the amount they're getting is up here. Where do you think that difference is going? It's going right in their pockets. And they just do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Deceitful things. They send it back to their home country and it's just ridiculous, dude. And it's paid for by tax money. That's why I think people have a hard time understanding. They just listen to this and see this and they're like, oh, okay, well, they're getting money. Like they didn't earn it, whatever. No, they're getting your fucking money. Your money. It's taxpayer funded to these people running these illegitimate businesses. And it's so ridiculous. Think how much lower taxes could be if we weren't paying for stupid shit like this. Could be a lot lower. And we could all of the working class people could live a much better life. Could have more money to spend on the things they want and need and to uplift themselves, as opposed to giving it to fraudulent businesses like these Somali daycares. As a minute example, there's way more fraud obviously than this throughout the US, but just one instance.
I said, great, let me come to Minnesota and we'll make this video about potential fraud that was taking place inside of Minnesota. We go to a daycare and I'm instantly surprised by what we see. We arrived and it was an industrialized building and there was 2 daycares registered at that building. And the first thing I noticed is all the windows are blacked out.
Which is crazy because that never happens, dude. I went to daycares like this all throughout my childhood because both my parents worked. Never at a single one of them were the windows ever blacked out or anything like that. There was never a single one that had anything like that. So that just should show you, something's not right here. And then, of course, they continue to dig deeper and find even more just corruption displayed and fraud, of course.
And there's no footprints in the snow of any children. There's no playgrounds
Why is
or
that?
anything that would make it look like it's a child care. But above me, a sign read, open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But there was nobody there. The doorbell did not even work. And then we continued to go to other daycares and we noticed the same pattern.
And remember, real quick, the amount of money they get is for their amount of kids they have and their operation hours. So it's like, really, what daycare? When I went to daycare, it was like they would have the younger kids, obviously, that would just go there all day. And then I was, at certain ones, maybe get out of school and I would go there at 3 o'clock. But why would these daycares be open until 10 p.m.? It just doesn't make sense. Like, most people are off of work much, much earlier than that. If you work a normal 9 to 5, you're off at 5 p.m. Your parents can come pick up the kids at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, maybe something like that. Maybe you work a little bit later, get them at like 8 o'clock. But like, they are getting paid for not only the amount of kids that they say they have, but the amount of hours they're open too. So more kids, more hours open equals more subsidized money from the government, aka from the taxpayers.
No children, blacked out windows, and one daycare, a learning center, spelled Quality Learning Center instead of Quality Learning Center. They had received $1.9 million.
Yeah.
Yet with that $1.9 million, they could not even spell leering right on their sign.
Couldn't even spell it right.
Governor Walz has said he's been fighting fraud in Minnesota since 2019 and said the buck stops with him.
Yeah, the problem is he hasn't been fighting against it. He's been fighting for it and uplifting it.
However, how long would it take for you to notice $1 million leaving your bank account and not knowing where it's going? That's essentially what had been happening in Minnesota for years, as billions of dollars has been misplaced. And meanwhile, while people like Governor Tim Walz call people like me a white supremacist, delusional conspiracy theorist, he actually decided to drop out of re-election because,
what does that tell you?
I believe, of how deep and extensive this fraud is. Thank you very much. Since my reporting, the HHS department froze over $185 million, and to this day, not a single business has been able to prove proof of legitimacy. How fast would you be proving that you are a legitimate business if you have children to actually feed and to take care of? You'd be
like that. It would be immediate. And these businesses aren't doing that because they're fraudulent and they know they're fraudulent. And now they have to come up with a lie. See, like whenever something is presented to you and someone says like exactly just what he said, prove that you're a legitimate business. A legitimate business would be able to go like that. But when you're a false business and you run, you run a business based on lies and deception, you have to then come up with more lies and more deception to try to route people around the main lie that you're telling. So it's just like a main lie here, and then, we got to subvert around that main lie with other lies. And hopefully it kind of makes sense, even though it probably won't because it's a lie. And it's just, that's the way it works. So of course these people have a hard time answering these questions because they're lying, dude. It's like, it's so obvious.
Instantly. I made this video to document the widespread fraud that has been taking place, as I truly believe all fraud is bad.
Yeah.
And people like me, my generation, we're sick of seeing tax dollars go towards fraud. We just want to have the same opportunities
Absolutely.
that our fathers and our grandparents had. And when you see people making millions of dollars by committing fraud, it upsets everybody from all age demographics.
And he's not wrong either. I mean, my mom had me, she was a single mother for a little while. She made like, I've talked to her about this before. This was like a long time ago, back in like the 90s, but she made, at the time, maybe like 40,000 a year, 50, something like that. And she was able to own a home. She owned a home, and, worked, was able to do that, daycare, and like my grandparents helped out a little bit, but she was able to like buy a house, put food on the table, feed me, feed herself, everything like this, do little fun activities for me as a kid. And she had enough to do that. Dude, nowadays, that amount of money, $40,000 per year, is like enough for a tenth of an adult, let alone a whole adult and a whole child. It's ridiculous. Like, of course. And then we wonder why things are getting so expensive, because we're pumping all the money that should be used to help the American citizens to these fraudulent Somalis and other people as well committing fraud. It's just ridiculous. Nobody can afford to live like this. Like, we can't. It's just everything is way too expensive, bro. Way too expensive. It's ridiculous.
And so I hope today we can have a good conversation, and I think we can all agree that fraud is bad and that fraud is fraud. And I wish the best for our country, and I think that's what needs to be happening, is to crack down on all forms of fraud. So thank you for having me, and God bless the USA.
Information.
God bless the USA. Let's see what this is.
Build a successful society of their own. I mean, we're taking people from Somalia, and Somalia is a failed, it's not a nation. Got no government, got no police, got no military, got no nothing.
Yeah.
And then we have this fake congressperson who they just reported is worth $30 million.
Ilhan Omar, in case you guys didn't know.
Do you believe this? Ilhan Omar talking about the Constitution provides me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they do, bro. See, I cannot stand this shit. It makes me so mad. These people want to, they want to like use your own morality and your own laws against you to try to benefit them when they are being the most immoral and the most illegal that they can possibly be. And it's ridiculous. It's so stupid. I hate when people do shit like that. And she's one of them. She does that. Of course, you've seen, if anyone has seen the reports on her, she magically went from worth negative $65,000 to worth $30 million in like a span of 1 year or 2 years. It's just, that doesn't happen. Like, that's ridiculous. And it's because she takes part in the fraud, and Tim Walz has allowed her to do it in Minnesota. Of course. Taking all the money illegally, stealing. Of course. It's like, use your brain for a second. Common sense. That's it.
She comes from a country that's not a country, and she's telling us how to run America. Not going to get away with it much longer. Let me
exactly.
tell you.
Not going to get away with it.
The situation in Minnesota reminds us that the West cannot mass import foreign cultures, which have failed
Bingo.
to ever build a successful society of their own.
Exactly. It's like getting a bunch of physically disabled people to try to build, a skyscraper for you. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't make sense. If they can't build their own country up and run their own country, why would they be able to do it for ours? And the answer is they won't, and they never will. They'll just come and they'll steal and then send the money back to Somalia. I mean, you saw in my last video, they interviewed the guy at TSA. 35 years worked for TSA in Minnesota, Minneapolis airport. He would see every single week Somalian-looking guys go through with suitcases filled with money, filled to the brim with money. And he said it would happen every week, twice a week for a year. The smallest amount he had ever seen was $750,000. He said on average it would be, and that was in one suitcase. On average, it would be like $4 or $5 million, sometimes more than that. It comes out to being like $500 million to $600 million a year in fraudulent money that they're taking back to their country. They can't build their own country up, so they have to pirate our country and steal funds from our country to then go build theirs up, but it's still not getting built up, is it? No, it's not, because they can't do it. They don't have the capacity to do it.
I mean, we're taking people from Somalia.
So stupid.
And Somalia is a failed, it's not a nation. Got no.
Let's watch. I saw this one.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Shirley, thank you for your testimony today and the work that you've done. Americans hear these numbers of the fraud that we have, and whether it's 10,000 or 10 million or 10 billion, sometimes the numbers, you almost become desensitized to it. And so the way that your video was able to show people the fraud sort of in real life actually happening, I think opened a lot of eyes and has helped to catalyze a level of scrutiny that we really should have had before. So you mentioned in your testimony that you think that what you discovered in Minnesota, that this is not isolated to that state, but likely exists in other parts of the country as well, correct?
It 100% exists in other parts of the country. Think about Minnesota, right? It's a small state at the top of the country, borders Canada, right? Think about all the areas that border Mexico, and think about under Biden's presidency, all the flooding of illegal people that came into our country. And guess where they go? They go to the Democrat states, because those states generally don't require an ID to vote. So they import these people, say, yeah, we'll give you this, this, and this, just vote Democrat. And okay, shit, yeah, we'll get free stuff and we'll vote Democrat. And that's exactly what happened. See, he just said, talking about fraud here. Let me pull this up real quick. So here, this is something that Dr. Oz was talking about, but in California, for instance, one of the biggest state. Think about how crazy the fraud is out there. It's way worse than Minnesota. So Dr. Oz says what we're seeing in Minnesota, which is in billions of dollars of fraud, hurts our most vulnerable people and puts them at risk. But it is dwarfed by what I've seen in California, which is whole-scale cultural malfeasance around healthcare. There's an acceptance that you need to be in the fraud business, especially in Los Angeles. The magnitude of fraud there, we believe, is approximately $4 billion just in hospice and home healthcare. Those two things, hospice and home healthcare, approximately $4 billion is what they're thinking. Oz went on to explain that the issue is bigger than just California. There's many groups that are penetrating our healthcare system to steal money from us who are not, and they are not native-born Americans. Many of them aren't U.S. citizens. When the Department of Justice goes after some of those groups, such as earlier this year in 2025 regarding a $15 billion Russian mafia sting, most of the perpetrators had escaped back to Russia. So it's an effort by other countries to take advantage of our healthcare system. Exactly. And that's what happens. Like, it's what I was talking about earlier with the morality of things. People always want to use our morality against us. And you've seen it time and time again. It's like, yeah, we believe stealing is wrong. And then they want to steal from us, but then we'll get mad if we steal from them. It's exactly how it is. And they want to try to use it against us. But yeah, Bill Eseli, first assistant U.S. attorney for the Central District of California, has criticized Newsom harshly, calling him the king of fraud. On an episode of Fox and Friends on January 8th, he remarked, "California has spent $24 billion in the last 5 years on homelessness, and no one can account for where the money has really gone. Imagine that." And we'll show some other things here. Homelessness hits record high in California, jumps dramatically in the rest of the U.S. Californians have consistently cited homelessness as a top issue facing the state, and we know this. I mean, you can look this up for yourself. In 2024, homelessness reached record highs. So just remember, he's getting all this money to support homelessness and end it, and it's gone up. So it's like, whatever you're doing, where's the money really going, Gavin? Where's it going? It's not going to what you say it is, or else this would be under wraps. $24 billion. It's crazy. So, of the nation's 771,000 people experiencing homelessness, over 187,000, 24% of the entire nation's homelessness is in California. And then they change it. This is what you have to be careful when looking up statistics, but they try to obfuscate, trick, and deceive and change the metrics for the way they measure things. So there's two types of homelessness. There's unsheltered, which is like you're just living out like in this picture on a tent on the side of the road or whatever. And then there's sheltered, where they have different areas where they can stay, and it's paid for by the government, obviously, but they can stay there. But it's still unsheltered homelessness and sheltered homelessness. It's still homelessness. Like, you don't have an actual home. So, but they try to do this to say, oh, well, it's gone down, and they move them from one category to the other to literally try to trick people. So California has the highest amount out of the states, and it goes up. Oh, that's something else. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Well, I'll go over this and think about this as well. So the amount of people that come here and they, break laws. Like we saw it earlier where Trump had to send troops to all these where people are just being lunatics, dude. It's just like, people can't be normal anymore. It's like, it's the new normal to be weird, basically. People just have such a, being a normal person, you work, you go, spend time with your family. Now it's we got to fucking dye our hair fuchsia colored and put giant swords through our ears and then go out and march. It's just like, dude, people can't be normal, and it's so ridiculous. And then these illegals that come here commit to the amount of murders and the amount of theft. Like, if your first action to enter a country is to break the law by entering it illegally, what does that tell you about your case? Probably not very good. You're probably going to keep doing more bad stuff. So, annual crime trends report analyzed from 40 largest cities across the U.S., 13 different crime types, including murder, carjacking, all this stuff. So homicides dropped 21% from 2024. Very good. Carjackings have declined 61% since 2023, and shoplifting's down 10% since 2024. And then this graph here will show you everything. So light blue is 2024, purple is 2023, and then so on and so forth back. You can literally see all of this. Look, the lower the better, by the way, for these. This is homicide in this area, aggravated assault, gun assault, sexual assault, so on and so forth. 2025 is the lowest, except in this category here, where 2020 sexual assault was lower. But every other category is much, much lower in 2025. Gun assault, way down. Aggravated assault, way down. So we went from positive 3% to negative 6%. That's a 9% decrease in aggravated assault. Here we went from negative 5% in homicide to negative 25%. That's a 20% decrease in homicide. Sexual assault, roughly the same. Domestic violence went down 2%. Robbery went down 19%. So you see carjacking went down a lot. 25 plus 29. What is that, like 54% decrease in carjacking? That's pretty good. So, you know, with like the reason why these other numbers are so high, this is all during Biden's administration. Think about that. Because if people know they can commit a crime and get away with it because the government's going to protect, be like, oh, you raped somebody and murdered 5 other people and stabbed 15 people and stole $500,000. We'll just give you a week in jail. We'll just give you a week. A slight tap on the wrist. No, fuck that, dude. That's so stupid. People need to pay for the things that they're doing. You can't go around doing these types of crimes and not get punished for it. And that's exactly what was happening under Biden. He would just be, oh, a little slap on the wrist, you know. You can do it. It's fine. And of course, when you say that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have numbers on the graph going through the roof, which is what we see. So Trump comes in, cracks down on it, and we have a big decrease across the board. And, you know, obviously not all of this is funneled by or fueled by illegal immigrants. I mean, there's other things, but even sending troops to the cities like what happened earlier last year, it's a good fit. People can't, they got to know, you know, the old saying, they got to know that if they fuck around, they are going to find out why they shouldn't have done it. And that's exactly what happened.
Correct.
What makes you think that?
Well, now you're seeing, since I posted that video, lots of other people have started to go to other locations. For instance,
Exactly.
in Ohio or in Maine or in California. They're also seeing the similar fraud take place in other daycares, for instance, in a lot of other locations.
Yeah, I have a particular interest in California, being from that state, and we know that there's been a lot of fraud. There was $32.6 billion that's been confirmed in unemployment insurance fraud. There's 1.2 million fraudulent community college applications. Have you gotten any sense, or have you seen any signs there that sort of are similar to what aroused your suspicions in Minnesota?
Yeah, and fraud in California might be worse than the fraud in Minnesota.
Oh, it's definitely
What makes
worse.
you say that?
Well, $24 billion went missing for homelessness. They've been trying to build this train for years, yet there's hardly anything to prove for that. Fires.
Yeah, those are good points. So you look at let's run through a couple of those because I mentioned the areas where we have confirmed fraud, but then you also have these areas where you have so much spending, and then we look at what results from that spending, and there's nothing. So
Yeah,
$24 billion
exactly.
in homeless.
And what does that tell you? The money is going boop, right in the pocket of the politician. Of course it is. Of course. And that's what they do. They steal, dude. I hate this. This pisses me off so much. These people need to be locked up. They need to be locked up or deported if they are here, you know, come into the country and then do the, yeah, get them out. I can't stand this because then we pay the price for it. And I hate that. It pisses me off.
The homeless population went up, and a state audit found that they couldn't even figure out where the money went or what the outcomes linked to that
Went in their
spending were.
pockets.
Is that something that is kind of a red flag for you?
Yeah, it's a major red flag, and you don't even have to be smart to be able to know that that's a red flag.
Yeah,
Well,
common
unfortunately, our
sense.
state legislators haven't managed to figure that out, or at least the governor hasn't. So what are you saying about him?
They're not smart. No, but yeah, I mean, it's so obvious, and that's what we saw in Minnesota is how complicit the government has been in enabling this fraud to happen. Quality Learning Center had over 90 violations, yet they continue to give that daycare $1.9 million.
Yeah, that's a great point. That there's the political accountability just hasn't been there, and that's what enables it to continue. So then you mentioned the high-speed rail as well. So there has been about $18 billion spent so far. No track has been laid, and not a single passenger has ridden the train.
Yeah, what do you call that? Fraud. Oh, we need all this money. Okay, we'll give you the money. Check back. Oh, a few years later. Oh, you guys still haven't made any progress, huh? Where'd all the fucking money go? I wonder. In your pockets. So stupid. By the way, if you like videos like this, covering things happening in the U.S. and our local communities around, covering fraud and deception, that stuff really pisses me off. I can't stand it. But if you like the coverage and talking about that, feel free to subscribe and, reply to one of my videos. Give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out trying to grow this channel. And I try to reply to as many comments as I can and really trying to grow a community of people that are aware of what's going on and can see through the mist that the the fraudsters try to portray and obfuscate us with. So appreciate it.
So when you spend $18 billion on a train and there's no train, does that raise suspicions for you?
Yes,
So you think that might be something worth looking at?
Common sense.
for sure.
We also had a $650 million 911 service that they scrapped after 6 years, so absolutely no value from it. Maybe that's another example where there might at least be questions.
I think you got a lot in California.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing what you find. We're certainly...
It's because old Gavin Newscum is running it. That's why. Just remember that. That's always why. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying obviously not that the Democrat states are the only ones that have fraud. Of course not. But I think they have way more than the Republican states. I would be willing to bet a substantial amount of money on that the Democrat-run states and these big Democrat cities have way more fraud, way more fraud than the Republican states do. I'd be willing to bet on it for sure. If you added up all the totals of them, I'd be willing to bet.
trying to use whatever tools we have here to bring more accountability in California as well. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, this is just so ridiculous, dude. It's just, oh my gosh.